Today I want to discuss the obligation to ask forgiveness from others on Erev Yom Kippur. If we've wronged somebody, we have an obligation to go and ask them for forgiveness on Yom Kippur. The introduction to this topic is as follows. We have two types of mitzvot. We have mitzvot between us and Hashem, and we have mitzvot between us and our fellow human beings. The principle is that if a person has done wrong to another person, he cannot be forgiven by Hashem unless the person who he has wronged also forgives him. And it says that a person goes into Yom Kippur and he has wronged somebody else and the other person has not forgiven him. Yom Kippur will not atone for him until the person has secured forgiveness from that person. So that's why it's mentioned that on Erev Yom Kippur, a person has to seek forgiveness from those who he has wronged. The truth is, a person should ask for forgiveness at any time during the year if he has wronged somebody, and he should not delay doing so. The reason it's mentioned on Erev Yom Kippur is because this is the deadline for putting everything in order before we go into Yom Kippur, and that's why these halachas are mentioned specifically in connection to Erev Yom Kippur. One should do it during the course of the year immediately, but if one has not done so, he should make sure that he does it at least by Erev Yom Kippur, because if not, he will go into Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur will not atone for him unless he's been forgiven. If a person is embarrassed to go and ask for forgiveness himself, the halacha is that ideally a person should go and ask in person for forgiveness. The reason for this is because it shows more humility, and one should do this himself. The embarrassment that he feels from having to ask for forgiveness is actually part of the process of atonement. If the person, however, is too embarrassed to go by himself, or he feels that by sending somebody else to ask for forgiveness for him, it's more likely that he's going to be forgiven, he can ask somebody else. So therefore, it is preferable to go yourself. However, if it's very, very difficult, you're too embarrassed to do so, or you're afraid that the person won't forgive you only if someone else will ask, then you may send somebody else. What happens if you ask the person for forgiveness and they did not want to forgive you? So it says in Shulchan Aruch that one must go up to another 2 more times. In other words, a total of 3 times to go to ask for forgiveness. After the first time, he should take 3 people together with him and ask for forgiveness in the presence of those other 3 people. And each time, the subsequent times, he should actually try a different way of trying to have the person to forgive them. Okay. If after 3 times the person who is wronged still does not want to forgive the person who has wronged him, it says in Shulchan Aruch that he does not have to ask any further. There's a question amongst the authorities, do we say that in such a case a person will now have atonement on Yom Kippur because after all he's tried 3 times? Some authorities say yes. If he's tried his best after 3 occasions to get forgiveness and it hasn't worked, it's like he's been forgiven and Yom Kippur will atone for him. Others say no, until the person forgives you, you will not have will not be atoned for. However, in the heavenly court they will judge you like a person who had no alternative, and it will be more lenient in your judgment. If a person wronged his teacher or his rabbi, he must go up to 10 times to ask for forgiveness. If the person that he wronged has already died, it is mentioned that a person should go with 10 people to his grave and ask for forgiveness. The Shulchan Aruch says that a person who is asked for forgiveness should not be cruel and should be forgiving. It's actually a big merit for him to be forgiving, because if we're forgiving of others, Hashem will be forgiving towards us as well. If a person has wronged a child, can a child forgive a person for something that's done wrong? So some say yes, others say no. Until the child comes to the age of mitzvot, comes to the age of bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, he's not able to give proper, full forgiveness, and therefore some people, what they do is if they've wronged a child, they ask for forgiveness, and then after the child reaches the age of mitzvot, they go back and ask him again. So these are the laws of asking for forgiveness on Erev Yom Kippur. Once again, don't wait till Erev Yom Kippur to set your house in order. It's just that if you haven't done it until now, now's the time.